What's poppin' peeps? It's your boy Koops back at it again with a spoiler-heavy review of the newest Dragon Ball movie that come out. I guess, just named Broly. Really just named Dragon Ball Super Broly. Yep, spoiler-heavy, as I emphasize yet again. If you want to see, just verbatim thoughts, nothing really too concrete going from beginning to ending on the detail that everything that happened, check out RTB's version. This is the compromise we had to make, because as he said at the beginning, and as I'm going to state right now, things happened. Nothing personally between us. We're never gonna hate each other or nothing like that. But it was just on his side some family issues that prevented him from hanging out with me at my place. Like I had alluded to before with the little Camilla video I did on the Fire Emblem thing or whatever. So this is what we're doing for it. I'm gonna cover the movie from beginning in spoiler fashion. He did it in a version that's condensed and doesn't really go out of the way to explain everything. So if you still have yet to see it, go see it. But as your last warning, I'm going to spoil everything about it, though knowing most people, they've probably already seen it by now. So if you just want some fat nerd's opinion on it, just minimize the tab, relax, and enjoy, or hate my opinion. I don't know. I'm not on camera, though, because I refuse to show myself. Even though I have before, but I'm more comfortable with these type of videos where I just put footage up. And again, I apologize for the terrible Xenoverse 2 footage. I'm not good at any game I play, but I just had to have something up as visual nonsense. Some of it will be from a really old Xenoverse 2 review as well, because I didn't feel like sitting down and recording however long it would take for me to talk. I record a little bit of the main focal point characters, because they're actually in the game, but that's far besides the point. I've already ranted on without talking anything about the movie, so let's get started. So it starts off with Dragon Ball Minus adaptation, I guess. We're going to make that canon, which pretty much explains the Saiyan past. Think Bardock, the father of Goku, but without Bardock, the father of Goku stuff happening. Kind of more focused on Saiyan stuff in general and just getting us, I guess, retconning the lore a little bit. I don't know. But it pretty much starts, we see the Saiyan planet, and they seem pretty much technologically advanced, like they were as in the original version, how they attacked the Tuffle planet or whatever. So I guess this is after all of that, and they were under the rule of King Cold. By the way, fun fact, King Cold in this one is not voiced by Chris Guerrero like I thought, because he sounded a lot like Chris Guerrero and had Chris Guerrero-isms, but no. And it's not even the original guy who did King Cold. It is from the Kai dub, which I've yet to see, who is also the same actor for Beerus, Jason Douglas. So, not only Frieza am I your god, but I'm also your daddy. Anyway, don't know why I brought that up. But he's come to show off his new very, very pink son. And Cooler! Oh my god! Cooler's cat! No, I'm kidding. We can only have one canon movie character in this. Got you. No, it's just Frieza, and he's like, yo, I'm retiring, guys. This is gonna be your new leader. And then Frieza's like, hey, I brought gifts. It's these new scouters. They're more advanced than the old models. By the way, I see some fancy snipers. Let me just show off my power. Kill, kill, kill. By the way, have fun with that. I'm your new leader now. Bye! And then they just leave on that note after they, came in their fancy answers with their glorious 3D ships. Now, me and RTB share our same opinion on, the 3D blending with 2D. You really gotta stick to one style, because it's so jarring at points. I know it saves the animators time and all of that jazz, but a franchise like Dragon Ball, you're making oodles of money. You can take time to hand draw that kind of stuff. Really, you can. They didn't want to, and it shows, especially the top-notch scene in the background where, this is a little bit later when Bardock's talking to somebody who he, went to a planet with. But there's this, Saiyan driving this kind of centipede car, and it looks so bad. It looked terrible. And I'm like, why do they keep going with this? The only time I've ever really, in my opinion, see the 3D work is with Yu-Gi-Oh! On the Dark Side of Dimensions, and that's because they're supposed to be 3D holograms, even though not everything's 3D. It's mostly like Kaiba's monsters and I think the main villain's monsters. But, you know, they made that work and it didn't take me out of it because they're holograms. But here it's like, But I guess that's just the thing we're going to have to get used to, because there's still, besides the ships and cars, there's more 3D used in the movie, but I'll get to that as we get to that. Backtrack a little bit, because the Bardock topping happens after this. But before there, after King Vegeta nearly pooped himself or whatever, he's at least going to go into the chamber where all the baby Saiyans are, and he's like, "Oh yes, my son is the best son of all the sons. He will rule Vegeta with an iron fist, because I'm so arrogant, I named the planet after myself," and blah blah blah. And then you notice another plot, he's like, "Legasp! Why is this child here, ruining my sight with his presence, besmirking my son?" But his guards, his little, scientists or whatever, are like, "Oh, sir, that's Broly, that's Paragus' son. He has a really, really high power, even higher than your son's." And that makes King Vegeta go, "Nani?" And out of jealousy, he is going to put Broly in a pod and send him off to an unhospitable planet, some weird desert planet. I'd hate it, because I hate deserts. And that's when Paragus comes in and is like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And Vegeta's like, "Oh, your son's going to a planet because we're going to prove how much of a Saiyan he is if he has a really high battle power." And Paragus is like, "You're just jealous." And King Vegeta's like, "Lol, no." And then Paragus just gets fed up with it. He leaves. He commandeers a ship and goes after his son because that is his son. And, at first he seems like a very caring father, but as the days go on with him, he just becomes kind of bitter more and more. And all he can really see is vengeance that had King Vegeta treated him and his son to the point where it's just bloodthirst, and he doesn't really see his son as a son anymore. But we'll get to that. So him and some other dude that he kind of picked up along the way because he was maintaining the ship and he just happened to be there. They get to the planet and it's filled with Dragon Ball GT spiders. And I only say that because it's very reminiscent of the GT kind of search for the Black Star Dragon Balls in terms of like the alien life that's on there or whatever. They kind of have some struggle with it. You see some of the wildlife, whatever. That's not too much of the point. But what the main point is, they do find out where Broly is. And he's, like, killed a bunch of spiders or whatever. And due to, I think, the rage of... Because that planet had a moon. And he looked at it, became a great ape, killed everything, yada yada. But they found Broly. They were going to head back. But during the crash landing, the little maintenance computer broke. And the one guy that was with him, I don't remember his name because he was just a generic soldier. Let's just call him Clark. Clark was like, "Oh no, we only have food enough for 10 days worth." And then Paragus, starting to show the signs of him being douchebaggery. Well, this will help with cut down of the supplies. Bang, kills the guy right there. So only him and Broly are left on that planet to do whatever, just survive and whatnot. And that's pretty much their saga for a little bit. We're going to come back to them. They're just kind of doing stuff on that planet right now. And meanwhile, back on planet Vegeta, Bardock comes back with his one friend. Like I said, they did. Because they are all supposed to come back. All the Saiyans were supposed to come back from their one missions or whatever to meet up here because Frieza had some sort of announcement. It's the start of Frieza Day. And it starts off with a bang. Pun intended. You know the scene. He gets out of his ship, makes his little death ball with his finger, flicks it towards the planet, and everything dies. But again, before that, before the payoff on that, we have to have little Goku be Superman, because that's what we've kind of retconned now. Bardock has kind of been reduced to a bit of a minor character, which I really don't like. He doesn't really have any of his future-seeing powers or that he got from Kanasa or whatever. When he went to work for that, he's just kind of there now. But at least we get to see Goku's mom, Gine. She's a cutie. Okay. But they have a little bit of a chat. Bardock has a bad feeling about where Frieza's going with this. He wants to send their son somewhere safe. Raditz is already off doing a mission with little Vegeta and Nappa at this point, so they don't really mention him. But they send off little Goku, like Superman, to make sure he misses the devastation of the planet. Why they didn't go with him, they made up some excuse like, oh, they would track us with their scouters in an instant. I mean, I guess hindsight's 20/20, because they didn't really hunt after Raditz, Vegeta, and Nappa. They still kind of used them as part of the Frieza Force even after the extermination. So they really could have went along with Goku, to be honest with you. But again, they didn't know the exact, so I guess they felt it was better just to stay and try to fend off the planet. Maybe if that fear didn't come to pass, they'd go after little Goku, but the fear came after pass, so whatever. And another really disappointing thing is when the ball crashes down and Bardock tries to defend it, he doesn't shout everything. 0 out of 10. Worst super adaptation of all time. Don't even give it a... I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But he does die to the death ball, so guess what? I guess that dumb Super Saiyan Bardock thing can still be canon if it wants to. That death ball could have sent him back in time, because that's what we wanted. And then also, I know I'm kind of being a purist here, but I missed the original Frieza reaction from the Bardock movie, where he's like laughing maniacally and is like, "Look at the fireworks, Darbon and Dodoria! Isn't it wonderful?" Here, he's just kind of like, "Nah, I feel better," and then he just leaves. I guess it's more douchebaggery, but the other reaction was a little bit more evil and classic, so, I don't know. Minor, very minor. So now that that's gone, and done, the leftover Saiyans catch wind of this, pretty much Vegeta, Raditz, Nappa, and then 2 generic Saiyans with Nappa. Don't know what happened to them. Could they possibly be the 2 that Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu fight under training with Popo? Is that who those 2 are? Because, I mean, they kind of look like them younger if you take a real good look. That was probably filler for all I know, but it's something. And then, out of everything, they have mentioned Tarble, Vegeta's brother, was off on the planet. So I guess Tarble's canon too? Hooray! For those who really wanted that. So there you go. Tarble's canon. Haha. Alright, so once we're done with our little Dragon Ball Minus adaptation, we cut to years later, right after the Tournament of Power, which has not been finished dubbing yet. We just got to the point where Frieza joins the squad. So there's that. But pretty much anyone who's going to this movie has either watched the Japanese version in full, or they Cliff Note know it, like I did. I haven't watched the Tournament of Power in full. I just know Cliff Note verbatim what goes on. So it's not super confusing what happens. And you don't really need to know it to get into this movie. I mean, it will kind of help because they have mentioned it right here. Because you see Goku and Vegeta sparring in just some offbeat, unknown island that Bulma bought because she owns the world. I'm convinced she's just so rich she owns the world at this point. She's like Kaiba rich in terms of money, maybe even more so. Has Kaiba bought a planet yet? I don't think so. Anyway, so they're doing their usual spar and stuff. They get done, and Beerus and Whis are with them there too. And also another little surprise, another canon character. Though I don't remember if she's already shown up in the series or not. Maybe not. Not sure. But little baby Bulla's there. Bulla, Bra, whatever you want to call her. Get it? Because everybody's named like after clothing garments in Bulma's family. Well, mostly everybody. But she's there now, so hey, something from GT carried over. Let's hope she doesn't grow up to be a basic bitch like her DT counterpart, but whatever. So Whis is talking, chilling out with the gang and asking Goku, after everything that's going on, you have a really great amount of power, my good man. Are you trying to steal Beerus' job? And Beerus is like, you better fucking not be. But then Goku just explains, well, the Tournament of Power just got me invigorated. All these really strong fighters like Jiren, for example, is pushing me to go even higher. And then Vegeta is just kind of angry at him to be angry because he's Vegeta. But with a pretty good reason, because even Whis brings it up, the why do you bother as well, your level Vegeta? And it's like, well, Frieza's back, and we need to kill him. And this wouldn't even be an issue on my mind if Goku didn't bring him back like an idiot. And then Goku's all like, well, he kind of saved their skin from Majin Buu being a lazy fat ass, so, you know, and I mean, he's not that strong, so we can take him out whenever. And Vegeta's all like, but what if he attains a new level? You saw how strong he just got, apparently, by quote-unquote just sitting there meditating in hell or whatever. Well, he didn't say that, but he kind of implied that Frieza could get stronger at any moment to surpass them. I think he mentioned more like his power jump during Resurrection F, even though they kind of played that more as a child's game, really, against him for the most part. But I don't think they were taking him seriously because they didn't know how much power he had gotten during that little time frame. Whatever. So, as they're relaxing, Bulma gets a call from Trunks and says her lab's been broken into. And the things that are missing there are the Dragon Balls, because apparently she was gathering the Dragon Balls on the side. And the camera footage show that it's some dudes in Frieza-goon armor, so Frieza has his sights on Earth yet again. So with that said, Bulma decides, well, I haven't found one Dragon Ball, which is in the Tundra region, so let's go to the icy snows and get the last one before Frieza and his goons do. That way we can beat him to it or whatever. And they invite Beerus to come along. Beerus is like, no, I'm gonna be lazy. Is there any good food there? They say, unless you like snow, and Beerus is like, bah. So he just stays there. Whis comes along, but that's perfect for Bulma because it's like, here, you can babysit Bulla. And at that moment, Beerus looks at himself in disbelief and is like, ugh. So this is what Piccolo feels like. And then in his mind, Piccolo's like, welcome to my world. So, besides that, Bulma and them are starting to head towards the Tundra region, and they kind of do a little bit of talking back and forth, and it's like, okay, Bulma, why are we even gathering the Dragon Balls in the first place? What does a millionaire like you even need? And this is kind of where the plot in terms of what both parties are gathering the Dragon Balls for are a little bit stupid. Frieza's more so, but we'll get to Frieza's, because his kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Bulma's, it's silly, but I give it a little bit of a pass. I mean, still, for how rich she is, she could probably just do this herself and make a machine to do this on her own, but whatever. Still stupid, but it's not as jarring as Frieza's. So, she wants the Dragon Balls to make herself look a little bit younger. Not like 10 years worth where people will think she's done plastic surgery, but just a little bit, just noticeable enough, just a couple years. Just to keep that youthly appearance, and I guess you would get self-conscious if your husband's a Saiyan who kind of keeps his youth, like, through all of time and doesn't show earthly aging, so understandable, I guess. A little silly, but hey, original Dragon Ball's always been that kind of silly, so whatever, but now we get to Frieza, so we go back to Frieza, and he's gained a little bit of his army back again and whatever. So one of his minions, Yellow McGee, I'm just going to call him Escargot for the sake of this, because he looks kind of like a snail. So he'll be Escargot. No, Escargoon is the name of a creepy right back at you guys. So Escargoon will be his name. And he's all like, Your Majesty, why are we even gathering the Dragon Balls for? I'm interested. Are you going to wish for eternal life? And as you guys would know, that was his normal goal back in the heydays of the Namek Saga. But he says some weird thing along the lines of, well, hell, if hell has taught me anything, is that maybe living an eternal life is not what it's cut out to be. I'm like, okay, so we're just gonna kind of ignore what you spent all the Namek Saga trying to achieve, okay? Maybe they don't want to write such a super duper wish because they might have a plot twist with the Dragon Balls where Frieza actually gets what he wants at the end of the day. So they need to make that excuse, so okay. We don't want to make Frieza immortal, though there's ways around it. We could wish him to not be immortal or whatever. Or we can make the Dead Zone canon and throw him in there with Garlic Jr., I don't know. But, I mean, well, technically, well, it was filler. Garlic Jr. was filler, but I don't know about Garlic Jr. Anyway, that's always been a mystery to me. He got a filler, and then his movie can be fit pretty easily. Whatever, that's not this movie, this is this movie. This is Broly's movie. So anyway, but then Escargoon is all like, well, maybe you don't want to be damaged, you know, not feel anything, any pain. You want to be nigh invincible. And then Frieza's like, well, what fun would that be? Alright. And then his other blueberry minion makes the scoffing joke, you want to be taller, don't you? And then Frieza gives that look like, bitch, you didn't just figure me out. Yep, that's not a joke. Shoutouts to Commander Red from Dragon Ball. He wants to be taller. Not by much, just 5 centimeters to make it seem natural, because he's getting fed up with his army calling him short. Even Escargoon mentions, it's like, well, shouldn't you just be in your second form? You'd be much, much taller in that one. And Frieza's like, no, I want to be in my natural form, you fucking idiot. Where do I begin? Oh, boy. So instead of eternal life, the thing you were clamoring for eons, to rule the galaxy, immortal forever, to be the all-knowing tyrant, to not fear Beerus ever killing you, is that you don't want that anymore, because hell spooked you. You want to instead be taller. Now, first of all, I didn't take Frieza as someone who would care, you know? Like, minions, if minions have the, like, gall to scoff at him, just kill him, whatever. Forget him. That's normally been his thing. He's not the type to care about what other people think about him. And yet that somehow gets on his bad side. Not to mention the stupidity of his reason, by the way. I mean, I'm a Frieza fanboy. And he does moments in the movie that I absolutely love of him. But this is one I know it's trying to play for comedy and a Dragon Ball cutout. And probably a lot of people found this hilarious, but as to me, who kind of grew up with the Namek Saga, that makes that all feel pointless now that he just wanted to say, forget it. Forget it, because hell spooked me. Not to mention, you know, if you don't wish for immortality, you're more than likely to die again. And then you're back there. So wouldn't you want immortality so you would never have the fear of going back to that tree ever again? And then probably some people would argue, well, isn't that just Earth's hell? But yeah, more than likely Frieza's gonna go back to Earth and probably die there to Goku or Vegeta 1. And then he'll just be back to square one. Or even then, I always thought that in terms of the other world, it was just all-encompassing. I know it was filler, but if that little PyCon tournament event told me everything, there was different quadrants of galaxies, and I think they all just end up in this one other world. Like, it's not just exclusive to Earth, it's kind of encompasses their whole galaxy. So, again, the plot for these two forces to meet up is probably kind of the worst in terms of Super Z. I would expect something from this from an original style Dragon Ball, which is good that it's a callback to that, but it still rubs me the wrong way. If you found enjoyment out of it and it didn't bother you, fantastic. But to me, as kind of a Frieza fan, it's like, that just makes him look even, like, dumber. Jesus. Okay, so enough of ranting on that. Let's get back over to Broly's side. But before that, we find 2 different new members of the Frieza Force. We have Chilai, a green-skinned, calling you out on that RTB. You said green-haired. Yet again, yo, shoutouts to Cece. She's character in Dragon Ball now. Or C2, as the dub calls her. I didn't watch Code Geass that much. I just wanted to make that dumb joke. And then Lemo, not Finding Nemo, but Lemo, an older orange alien that's kind of palling around with Chile. They're talking back and forth about why they joined the Frieza Force or whatever. It was so she wouldn't be hit on, because, you know, she'd give that scary presence. And him, I don't really remember. I think it was one of those things more like he's been, you know, he's getting that age to where nothing was really exciting to him anymore, and being part of this force, I guess having a tyrannical overlord over your shoulder is waiting to kill you at any moment is exciting to him. So, you know, let him be him, whatever. So, they're just kind of cruising around the galaxy, for whatever reason. I don't know if it was like, I'm trying to remember if, like, main Frieza camp base picked up the signal and they sent those 2 out, or they were just on their way back to where Frieza was, but they picked up that signal first. don't really remember what made him go to that planet, but all in all, they went here anyway because there was a distress signal on this inhabitable planet. They went there, and we find a really, really old man Paragus. They've been there for years, I guess surviving off a bug juice or whatever. And it's come down to this, like, oh, thank God, finally someone showed up. I'm part of the Frieza Force, let me in, you know, that kind of stuff. Speaking of which, before I start, Paragus is actually voiced by Damian Clark this time around, which I could not tell. For those of you who don't know, he's Cell, Handsome Jack, etc., etc. I could not tell at all. And that goes to show you voice actors can definitely change it up from their original pitch. English actors aren't all terrible. In fact, I don't think any of them are terrible. That's just, again, the weeaboos hating the dub because it's the dub. How dare you besmirch the original? I want my karabashi, nande kaiba, shinji no daisuki nandayo. You know, that kind of dumb lingo, whatever. Not hating on the Japanese culture. It's just those people kind of get on my skin a little bit. You know, those sub-purists. And they think it sounds better, even though they're not Japanese. Whatever. So, now that both Broly and Paragus are along, well, first they, you know, check their power levels just to see if they'd be perfect for the Force. Paragus was like around 4,000 something. You know, power levels don't matter, but the main thing that matters is that the Scouters could not read Broly because he's just that immensely big and strong. So they're just like, get him on, quick! So they go back over to Frieza, and I guess it was a thing that now I'm recollecting it and kind of talking about it. I guess it was a thing that Frieza hired them to go do, because he ends up paying them in like glow sticks or something, pixie sticks, some silver stuff. I guess it's space currency. It's E-bucks, whatever. He gives them that, and then, you know, they're on their way in the back or whatever, and he kind of chats up with Frieza kind of chats up with Paragus a little bit. Kind of what's the deal with him, kind of surprised that there's actually another Saiyan that survived his nuke, though he said, you know, he gives the facade to them just in case that a meteor hit it. But Paragus is like, I don't care, they deserved it. It just sucks that I don't get to kill King Vegeta. And it's like, oh, Vegeta you mentioned. Well, his son, Vegeta the Fourth, I'm surprised they even called him the Fourth. So confirmed, there were two other King Vegetas before King Vegeta himself, I'm guessing the third, and then his son, the fourth, which is the one we know. Cool. Sure. And then at that point, since Frieza gave him that information, Paragus is like, we're gonna kill that son of a bitch! Broly, let's go! But you know, before they're making the preparations to go and whatever, they have a, well, actually, I'm stumbling on myself a bit. I think calling in Paragus and Frieza telling him all that was after this bit. So before that, he just said his hellos, and then they got him in some new armor or whatever, and they were on, like, in the break room with all of the Frieza's men, which I'm surprised Frieza even set up a break room in the first place, right? So Chi-Lai, Limo, and Broly, along with Paragus, are just kind of chilling out there, just trying to chat it up a little bit, like learn a little bit more about Broly. Because on the way there, actually, because I'm just remembering it now, and you think I would say this in sequential order, because I actually read a summary thing of the movie before I did this just to kind of remember it a little bit, because we went to see it yesterday, but even then I'm still fumbling around. But even then, you can tell Broly and his characterization here is kind of just out of touch from the normal standards of the worlds around him, because he's been on a desolate planet for so long. Before, when like Chi-Lai was eating some like candy bar thing or whatever, he was just kind of staring at her like, and she's like, "It's food. You want some?" He's about to like eat the whole thing. It's like, "No, just take the wrapper off, you idiot!" And then gives it to him, and then he just like stuffs it down like he's never had like legit food in his life. And it was kind of funny to see that. We'll see that a little bit more in the next scene I'm getting into. But they're just chatting amongst themselves, and then some drunk Frieza Force guys hitting on Chile or whatever, and that makes Broly miff that his friends are getting picked on. So Broly's about to go and kick this dude's ass, but then Paragus brings out his little fancy remote that I think he showed off earlier when he was talking to Frieza a little bit before the armor. He gets called in again later. That's what I mentioned earlier. But he presses it, and he said it was a mild shock, but no, this was like torture chair kinds of electricity flowing into Broly, and it was like, and then Chile saw it and was like, dude, you treat him like an animal. He's your son, isn't he? And then Paragus is bringing off some bullshit. This is the only way I can control him. He should have listened to me, because I'm his father and I know what's best. And then sneakily, Chile kind of, as he was confronting him, kind of takes the remote without him knowing, which will come into consequence a little bit later. But anyway, after all that fancy hullabaloo happens, Broly is with Chile and Limo since Frieza called in Paragus alone, and they're, you know, kind of just, I guess, enjoying each other's company. They spent some of the little weird glowy sticks on a bunch of the candy bar stuff, and showing even more Broly's out of touch. He's trying to figure out this bottle of water and how it works, and Limo's like, here, this might help a little bit, and just unscrews it for him, and he's chugging it down like he's never had water in his life, which, spoiler alert, he hasn't, because he's just been, again, drinking on bug juice. And they also bring up the little thing around his waist, which earlier Chile tried to, like, get it off of him because it smelled, but Broly didn't like that, so she just let it be. But then Broly kind of explained to them why it was special to him. So during his childhood, there was this one kind of big giant wolf creature from the planet that he ended up befriending as a child. You know, just playing around with him, he would try, like, the creature would try to snap at him, and he would play dodging game with it, and, you know, they were becoming kind of friendly with each other. But then one day Paragus was having none of that, shot at him, shot his ear clean off, and apparently the creature was never the same to Broly again after that. So he wears the ear like kind of as a waist cloth, kind of as a reminder of how they used to be friends. And Chile and Limo's all like, man, your dad sucks. But he's like, he's my dad, you shouldn't talk about him that way. So he still shows some love for his father, because that's, again, the only real person he's ever known besides the wildlife. So he treats him still in some regard as someone he appreciates, unlike the original non-canon Broly, which just treat him as garbage. And before I even get to the next bit, let's just address the character of Broly in this himself, just briefly real quick, because I was the most avid Broly hater from his original run for the longest time. I felt I was doing it before Team 4-Star made it cool to hate Broly. But in this movie, I wish he was just written from the beginning. It's nothing original. He's kind of just, you know, Tarzan put into the real world situation, gentle giant, doesn't really want to fight, but he has a berserk nature he can't control that forces him to, and he ends up, you know, kicking ass that way. When he's like backed into a corner, gets, you know, snaps really easy. And yo, if they had just written him like this with some character in the first place, I wouldn't have any trouble with Broly like I did back then, because he actually has a character and he's not just angry specifically at Goku because he cried as a baby and made him very sad. No, he's just kind of a wild man that was like forced into there because the freaking king was jealous, and then all of his life he's just been raised by Paragus, who's slowly become bitter over the years and just training him more as a tool for revenge instead of, you know, his son. So I can't, you know, I'm gonna have to applaud to Akira Toriyama there. You've made Broly a good character, and if he's brought back into anything else, that one I'm looking forward to. So I can't say I really hate this version of Broly as much as I wanted to go in and say, oh, he's still gonna be a piece of shit and I'm gonna hate him. No. Really like this interpretation of Broly a lot, so shut me up. So, now that we're done talking a little bit about Broly himself, let's go back into the meeting part. So we get to the part where they finally make it, well, Frieza and them make it to the Earth's atmosphere along with Goku, Vegeta, and Bulma, and Whis, cornering 2 guards that he sent there to kind of gather up the Dragon Balls for him or whatever. But they all finally meet at the destined area. And this is when the little tussle begins. More so because Frieza was just interested by the potential of Broly. Just wanted to see what a Saiyan under his thumb could do, because I guess he missed having Saiyans under his thumb. I don't know, it made him feel like the good old days again, so he was interested to see what Broly would do to the 2 he hates the most. But he made it very clear, like, oh, you can kill Vegeta if you want, but leave Goku for me. Just leave that monkey under my thumb. I want to squish him personally. You know, one of those beef dealios. Though without any effort, Frieza kind of just grabs all the Dragon Balls with his telekinesis, and he's just kind of holding them. He could, you know, and all this time, it's kind of funny. He could make the wish now. Could make his stupid wish now, because Broly is fending off Goku and Vegeta, and they're busy all fighting and stuff. But I guess, you know, Goku and his transmission can warp and stuff, Frieza, whatever. That's not the main point. But we get into the main part, the start of the part everyone's been waiting for, the actual fight. Paragus sicks Broly on Vegeta, and Broly proceeds to wail on him. I say wailing on him, but actually, Vegeta's kind of, this time around, I know he was a big baby when it came to Broly in the original, but this one, he's toying with the man, really. Because he's kind of punching him a little bit. He gets a little bit annoyed with how Broly's doing, so he goes Super Saiyan, and it's kind of getting the edge again. But then Broly's starting to get, you know, his built-up, fed-up anger type of dealio. And at this point, like, Paragus was all like, oh, I guess my son sucks compared to these guys, and Frieza's like disappointed. I was like, call him off. We're gonna do the Earth thing later. We got what I want. Let's go. I'm disappointed with this show, but since Sheila stole the remote from Paragus without him knowing, he couldn't calm Broly down, so he gets to his super de-duper enraged mode. Or maybe that happens a little bit after, when Vegeta actually shows off he can go God. You know, the red form. It's also known as Super Saiyan God, but again, for simplicity, let's just call Red Saiyan God and the blue form Super Saiyan God, just to keep it a little bit easier for me. Well, we could just call them red and blue, but I don't want to call them by colors, that's a little lame. And once he gets red, he pretty much besmirches Broly right there. Done deal. It's over. And then that's when Broly gets a little bit more enraged, and then actually kind of throws Vegeta to the curb, and that's when Goku takes his shot and steps in. So and then Goku goes through all the phases of his fight, trying to keep up Broly. I know I'm not explaining in details the fights themselves, because I can go over the plot details, but the actual blows they landed, not so much. But hey, that gives you something to go see yourself, because you wouldn't want me to explain every detail about the fight. That's the main point of a Dragon Ball movie. You know what happened, and if you did see it, you know how good it was, so I don't need to reiterate anyway. But I will go through just verbatim what happened during the fight, and then once Goku goes into a rather beautiful, though very elongated Super Saiyan God transformation. You know, normally he does that without any effort, but here he was screaming it out like it was Super Saiyan 3 or whatever. But maybe he was just tired after the one point when Broly literally like grabbed him by the leg and was just slamming him everywhere and then chucking him through the ice wall. And probably Goku like had enough there. Though I will admit, in the Saiyan God mode that Goku was in, I was really liking kind of this, like the smooth Tai Chi type of movement that Goku was doing. It was really different from like normally how he fights with just kind of brute strength type of dealio punching, kind of, you know, more so how Broly was doing. It's just very nice to see that different flow of combat from Goku, and it was kind of a highlight in terms of that fight there. But once he goes blue, it's pretty much a done deal for Broly yet again. And then Paragus is like, wow, my son pretty much is a danger to everybody around. Maybe the king was right, even though the king really just did it out of jealousy. He didn't care about if he was a danger to everybody or not. That was just an excuse, but that was kind of Paragus coming to a realization, because even when he like shouted at Broly to stop, he wasn't stopping. And then Frieza, oh, and forgive me if you're hearing this during it, because the ongoing battle of allergies is never ending. So, as the Florida weather flip-flops, it's kind of rough. But, and then Frieza's all like, I wouldn't be so sure he's not quite done. And then you get a flashback of what he did to Krillin on Namek. And in that moment, I'm like, uh-oh, he's going to kill Paragus, ain't he? And he killed Paragus. And when he killed Paragus, this is the part I loved about Frieza. He was making a scene like, oh goodness, Broly, it's terrible. Look, a stray beam hit your father and kill him. Oh, woe is him. He was making it out like a stray beam hit him, like he didn't freaking kill him himself, which he did. Plus 1 douchebag point to Frieza. That moment I love, because that is... That is typical Frieza douchebaggery like that. Maybe not all the acting and carrying on, but that was a good hilarious, unlike his wish. That I loved. So, but that enraged Broly and pushed him to the edge to actually go Super Saiyan. Because fun fact about this Broly, he doesn't just naturally become dumb legendary Super Saiyan. Like in the old movies, he actually didn't know how to. And that was something that even Frieza had asked. It's like, your son can't go Super Saiyan? And Paragus is all like, that's the legend. Because at this point, he's used to that being a fairy tale. And this is just all culture shock to Paragus at that point earlier. When Frieza's just like, oh, he can't go Super Saiyan? Pfft, loser. So. But then, now that he's in this, and that Broly's in this Super Saiyan mode, it's even too much for Goku at this point that Vegeta has to come in and they have to try and fend him off together, but even that doesn't work to where they're struggling to fight them even together. So Goku has a quick idea. They fly, and this is where Frieza gets his justice. They fly over the Frieza, does the instant transmission with Vegeta, and then Broly, blinded by rage, just proceeds to beat the snot out of Frieza. Now, in the initial trailers, because it was Broly, I was miffed that Frieza was getting essentially his ass whooped by him, but given the circumstances of what he did, you kind of deserve it, my man. I'm not trying to switch sides here enough, and you're still my favorite villain, but you kind of deserve your comeuppance here a little bit. So, well, Broly's using Frieza like a punching bag, because during the whole time, Frieza really doesn't get an edge in on Broly at all. Though points for his endurance, because apparently he lasts a very long time against Broly punching the snot out of him, as you'll know now. Because earlier, I'm jumping all over the place and I'm sorry, but you guys know how the movie happened, but I'm still explaining it verbatim, just in case there's bits that even you might forget that you want to, like, explain to me in the comments if I inevitably got it wrong or whatever. But, earlier, Piccolo wanted to remind us that he's in the movie and was actually talking to Goku, like, what's going on down there? And it's like, kind of not good. There's this really strong guy, and it might come to the point where I'll need your help. And then Piccolo's like, wow, that bad, huh? Normally this is the Goku show. You can have everything on your own. He's just like, oh, yeah, well. But he warps to where Piccolo's at with Vegeta, and he's like, hey, what we're doing, this ain't gonna work. We need to do the fusion dance. And Vegeta's like, what even is that? And then Goku shows off how the dance works with Piccolo, and of course Vegeta has his spat like, I ain't doing some stupid retarded dance, and then does actually a funny type of pose, and his face is actually drawn a little bit goofy during that bit. You know, having his Vegeta spat like he'd never fuse with you, and it's like, oh, come on, Vegeta, you've used the Potara, like, a bunch at this point. Well, two times at this point, but the point is you fuse with me. It's nothing new. And, you know, you can't have this brute kill off, you know, your daughter and your wife, you know? And when he brings that up, it's like, fine, let's learn the stupid dance. And of course they don't get it quite right at first. They fuck it up, they make the fat one canon, the best fusion. Then they actually make the skinny one canon. And it's unfortunate that every time they fuck up, they have to wait out the 30 minutes before they can try it again. So literally Frieza is getting beat up by Broly for an hour. Like a full solid hour, Frieza's getting the shit beat out of him by Broly. And we keep cutting back and forth as they're trying to get it together. But they finally get it. We see the man himself now in glorious canon. First, he kind of fumbles around with what he should be called because he's used to Vegito. But, of course, you know he's going to go with Gogeta as the name. Now, your boy from Fusion Reborn is canon. And that's all good in my book. So then he warps back to the fight. Pretty much kind of swaps in for Frieza, who's kind of left in the crater at this point, and even Frieza's kind of stunned by like this fusion and power or whatever, and even feels more inadequate at this point to where the levels of the monkeys have gotten to. But then we actually see Broly kind of punching at Whis now, because I guess he got bored beating up on Frieza, and Whis is just dodging it effortlessly, because, you know, he's the one who trained Beerus, so of course he still has this significant like heightened power level at this point, so he could probably take care of it if he wanted to, but you know, gods can't meddle in the affairs of earthlings or whatever. I don't know, but at least he was like dodging around or whatever, just kind of buying for time, so you know, that's cool. And then Whis was proud, like, hey, you two worked it out and fused, way to go, gold star for my pupils. And then they have a really awesome fight for the last half of the movie. I won't explain to detail how every single blow goes, because hell, even I can't remember, it happened so fast. But there are points where it switches to 3D, and as my man RTB pointed out, the CGI has gotten better. I felt, even myself felt, that it was more like Fighters promotional art, like if they were going to add Super Broly and Blue Gogeta in the game, which it looked good, and he actually, you know, it was a long, good fight, unlike with Janemba, where it's just like, sparkles, and then Janemba died. So, you got your money's worth with the actual battle. Now, as the battle came to a close, Broly powered up to the big, super muscly form during the little fight with Gogeta, by the way. But he's about to end it with a ginormous Kamehameha, but during this point, you know, Chile is feeling really bad for how Broly's thrown into this fight just because his father wanted revenge or whatever, and Broly doesn't really want to be doing this, but it's just kind of like his rage and his genetics. He kind of has the natural powers of a great ape in him without needing to turn into a great ape. So they go ahead, sneak away the Dragon Balls from Frieza, because at this point, Frieza was getting a little scared of how the battle was going, how it was like ruining Earth or whatever, the ground they were standing on. He didn't want to lose the Dragon Balls, so he had the Dragon Balls be put in the ship while he stood back and kind of watched how things go. Big mistake, however, because, you know, Chile swooped the Dragon Balls from Escargoon, and they made the wish to transport Broly back to the planet he was born on. Well, not born on, because it would be Planet Vegeta, and then he just died in the vacuum of space. No, that's the planet where he grew up on, that's what I meant to say. So before that blast hit him, he was teleported back to the desert planet, free from damage. The battle is done. And, you know, they decide, since they're traitors anyway, Chile and Limo are going to go to where Broly is at and, you know, make sure he's okay and whatever, since they've kind of become good friends now, whatever. And as they're flying off, Frieza's like, oh, those dirty motherfuckers. And he's about to, like, shoot the ship down and kill them, but Gogeta, of course, warps to where Frieza is, grab his hand like, hey, how you doing, bro? And he just shrugs it off like, I hate you so much. I'll be back next time. You know, kind of one of those things is like, I will have my revenge, and it's like, I love you too, buddy. You know, kind of one of those dealings. Again, you could kill Frieza right then and there now if you wanted to, but I guess it's that cockiness of Gogeta showing through, because all the fusions kind of amplify their cockiness tenfold. Then again, he was probably really tired from the Broly experience anyway. Then again, Frieza should have been too, with how much beating he was getting. That's besides the point. So everything's hunky-dory, pretty much back to normal. Earth is safe, and the dragons were prevented from making a really stupid wish about either getting taller or getting younger. Though I will mention one thing. I thought the Dragon Balls could grant 2 wishes. It only granted 1 there. Then again, I think they have mentioned that the Dragon Balls can revive in about like 6 months, but it would only have 1 wish. So maybe it was that, and then the full 2 months it would grant its stock of 2. Don't know if they retcon that bit or not, but I thought Dende made it to where they could do 2, but then it only did 1, but whatever. That's besides the point. So, Chile and Limo, you know, get stocked up on supplies, and they find where Broly is, and they're pretty much, you know, since they're on the one from Frieza and his gang, since they're, you know, traitors at one point, at this point, decide they're just gonna do their best to stay with Broly, and hey, bonus point, since he's so stupid retard strong, he can protect them pretty easy, so bonus points there. But of course, Frieza knows where they went, and he's more like, you know what, let's not bother to take them down, just let them do what they're doing over there. Hopefully they can domesticate the beast, and then I can bring him back under my thumb and have some sort of trump card against these Saiyans as I find a way to get more powerful myself, you know? Whatever. Frieza excuse. He just doesn't want to get beat up by Broly again. Anyway. So then we get to the final little bit. Goku actually, you know, senses Broly's energy, instant transmits over to that planet, and actually out of good faith brings them like supplies from Earth, you know, that classic capsule corp house thing that was used in the original Dragon Ball that Broma brought in a maze like little Goku. That was back. Pretty much to give them a little bit more life to that planet, I guess. Make it livable at the very least, so they don't have to go sipping on bug juice. And you know, they're very leery of Goku at first because they kind of felt like they forced the fight upon him, and they didn't really trust him too well. But Goku was all like, "It's all good. I'm not really after the kill, Broly, but just promise me I get to spar with him a little bit now and then, because he's really strong." And Broly's kind of giving that smile, like, you know what? Yeah, I'm kind of vibing with you, Goku. That sounds fun. In my mind, I'm thinking he's thinking that anyway, because he's smiling like he kind of trusts Goku at that point. Now that he's not in super rage mode or whatever. And he's about to say his goodbyes, and it's like, "But I'm Goku, but for you, Broly, you can call me Kakarot. Peace." And then he just instant transmission out of there, saying his goodbyes and leaving them to live what life they can there with a little bit of help, and that's pretty much the base of the movie. Yo, it is almost an hour. Jesus Christ. I don't think I'm gonna have to repeat footage at this point. Hoo-hoo. Shit, it's almost about as long as the movie what I went with. A little bit longer than that, but so overall, the feel of this movie, it's tough to surmise. Like, I know a lot of people are saying this is the hands down best Dragon Ball movie we've gotten today. And I don't know if that's blinding them because of how Broly's presented in this one now, but I will say the main attraction, the fight itself, with Broly, you know, Goku, Vegeta, and the fusion itself, that is probably the best out of the trilogy of Super movies we've had so far. That part is the best. I, however, as a movie itself, still find Resurrection F a little bit more fun. It passes Battle of Gods to me, the Broly movie, but I think the reason why Resurrection F, to me, feel free to debate, but to me is because the movies are showing more and more that it's just really becoming the Goku show with guest star Vegeta. You know, they've attained such godly heights that the other characters, like, you know, Krillin, Piccolo, Yamcha, even starting with Beerus now too, that he's become kind of a babysitter at this point. The God of Destruction has become a babysitter at this point. That they're not really getting a lot of the limelight, but at least with how Resurrection F's structure was before the main fight with Frieza himself, the Goon Squad was fighting for Frieza, and then all of the older characters that you've grown to love and grew up with, you know, like Krillin, Tien, Master Roshi, etc., they got their little bit of limelight in fighting, because, you know, it finally wasn't god tier levels of power, and just the overall, you know, plot of how Frieza got resurrected and come back, it feels like a better reason for the stuff to happen than just, oh, Frieza stole Bulma's Dragon Balls, because he wanted to get a couple centimeters taller, and Bulma wanted them because she wanted to get younger. That's, you know, it's just kind of a, you know, I'd expect that plot from Dragon Ball, sure, and I guess a callback, sure, but still, as an overall plot for a movie, from what we're used to with Super and it's how it works by now, it just doesn't feel right, in my opinion. But mostly everything else is really good. Now the little bit at the beginning with the Saiyan retelling in minus, it might drag on a little bit at the start. It's a good like 30 minutes of the movie, but all in all, still as a Dragon Ball movie itself, easy top 5, definitely easy top 5. I have to compare every single one of them, and in terms of the trilogy, it's right there in the middle, solid middle spot. And again, it does the main attraction fight better than Resurrection F, but just overall, as a full movie enjoyment to me, Resurrection F is still a better watch from, you know, beginning to end. But, you know, the Broly movie and its fight, what you came here for, the main event itself, the sparring, fantastic. I made this go on long enough. I probably had to recycle through so much footage, and I'm sorry for that. Man, I can't believe I talked for this movie that long. You guys probably like clicked out once it got to like the 4-minute mark. It was probably not that great to you. You probably didn't want to sit here and hear an hour fucking retelling of the story. That's all I have to say about the Broly movie in general. I went on way too long about the movie itself, I feel. Sorry if I bored you guys for an hour. But do leave in the comments if you're stopping by, like, what you felt about the movie, how I'm completely wrong that I think Resurrection F is still a better movie. You know, all that stuff. Whatever, it's all in good fun, guys. I've ranted on long enough. Let me let you go and get on with your lives, but thank you for lending an ear to this fat nerd rambling on about an anime movie, and I'll see you guys next for whatever I decide to do. Bye-bye.